I'm going to talk about three policies that affect foreign teachers here in China. They are the 9-year compulsory education, the Gaokao, and then the new requirements for foreign teachers that will be effective this year. The law on 9-year compulsory education. During the 50s and 60s, there was a cultural revolution. There was some hatred towards educated people. Well, they started getting kids to go back to school. And in the 70s and 80s, they found that there was a growing gap between the urban and rural populations, especially in education. So on July 1st, 1986, they instituted this law which required all students, all children to at least complete at least 9 years of education. And the purpose was is they were finding in urban populations they were only going 4 to 6 years and then dropping out, whereas in the urban populations they would go at least 9 years. There's a very interesting movie by Zhang Yimou, which is called Not One Less, and it really depicts what it was like for teachers and students, the dropout rates, etc., during this time. Very interesting. Well, the effects that it have. This law requiring children to go to school for 9 years. There are currently 192 million students in China, according to the Ministry of Education. Um, and that's great. When China first was established in 1949, there was only 20%, and that is now 98% of the population, the children, attend school. Now, of course, this results in overcrowding. China has a population of 1.23 billion people, and so there is going to be some overcrowding. It's very common to see 60 plus kids in a classroom, um, and that is a problem, especially when you get into the university. There's not quite enough universities available. And so they have determined a way to be able to distinguish who gets to go to university or not. In 1977, this is my second policy, there was the Gaokao that was established, and it is the high school examination. This result does determine if you were able to get into university or not. And at the time, this was a huge thing because, first of all, there weren't many people that had a college degree. And so if you had a college degree, if you were allowed to get into a university and then get a degree, that meant that you were able to have a good future. You would have a good job. You could get a government job or a job in a good company. Nowadays, the Gaokao, like I said, there's a tremendous amount of students taking this Gaokao, but there's not enough university positions to hold them. And out of the universities that are in China, there's only a handful of them that are seen as comparable to those outside of China. The US, the UK have much higher standards in education. Um, so everyone's trying to get into those few minority high schools or colleges in China, and the competition is tremendous. The Gaokao that they have to take is 2 days long. It goes over volumes and volumes of information that can be extremely difficult. If you'd like to see some of the tests, see if you could pass the Gaokao, there's a great link here that I left that CNN does. It's very interesting. What does this result in? It results in many students are now considering, why do I need to take all this time to study for a Gaokao if I'm not going to pass? Maybe I'll just go abroad. The education is better abroad. The parents, they don't want their kids to go through the stress that they had to go through for this test. And so they're thinking, yeah, let's go abroad. Let's consider going abroad. And then the international opportunities might be greater if I could work in America, or if I can work in Australia or the UK, and that affects us as international teachers. There's been a tremendous growth in international schools, and it's going to continue to grow. Last but not least, the third policy that I will talk about is the new requirements to get a work permit. China has been extremely lax, especially with who they allow to teach their children. And so they're becoming more and more stringent, you see. As of this year, actually next month, 2016, Shanghai will be the pilot program for the new work policy, but it will spread to the rest of China April 1st of next year. These new requirements, this policy will be in effect of all China. And pretty much what it does is it takes two of the previous work permits, combines it into one. This new one now categorizes foreigners into three classes, A, B, and C. B is the one that affects teachers the most, and so that's the one that I'm going to concentrate on. The first requirement is that the position must be open up to a foreign expat. The next one is that you must have a bachelor's degree or higher and 2 years of related work experience. Now, this was not the requirement before. Before, you just needed a bachelor's degree, and you didn't even have to teach the subject. You don't even have to have a degree in the subject you're teaching. This is 2 years, and you wouldn't have to have the 2 years experience. You could come right out of college, and that's what a lot of kids were doing. This is going to limit a lot of the foreigners that are in China. Another thing you could do is you could get a master's degree from mainland China or a master's degree from a top 100 university. And then this last one at the very end, you can see this next one, it says you have to be able to teach in your native tongue. This one's huge because there's a lot of Russian, a lot of Europeans that have a white face, and they have been passed off as Americans, and they're actually teaching English, and so China is cracking down on this. The last one is a personal comprehensive quality. It's a point system. If you get awards, etc., you could get a range between 60 to 85%. It's not too relevant right now. So a quick economics lesson. This is wages and supply. With this new policy, it will limit the amount of foreigners in China, and so you will see a shift of the red line. With that shift of the red line, we will see an increase of wages due to the quantity of foreigners being here. So that's a great thing for anyone that is qualified as a foreign expert or as a foreign teacher. It's a great thing. Wages should come up in the future for us. Summary. So the 9-year compulsory education. Too many children in school, not enough places in universities, and so many of them are now going abroad. If they're going abroad, they will first go to an international school. That's where foreigners teach at. The Gaokao is too much pressure, and so once again, parents and students are choosing to go to international schools to prepare for schools abroad. And last but not least, these new requirements are going to cause a restriction of new foreign teachers to come in, which will result in higher wages for those that are qualified foreign teachers. So in summary, China should be a good place for foreign teachers in the future. I appreciate that.